Good day, students. Welcome to our ML 054 or your Biostatistics in Epidemiology. For today's lecture, we will discuss the session 6, which is about the ratios and proportions. So to start off our discussion, we will define these terms first, these key concepts. Again, the text below describes how to calculate the different measures of your disease frequency. Number 1, we will define the numerator. Okay, as you can remember from your previous activity, we have discussed the numerator and the denominator. The numerator is the upper part of the fraction, and it is the feature which has been counted. Again, your numerator is the one that possesses the characteristic or has the disease or the specific illness. That is your numerator. So what are the examples of your numerator? Number of people who have developed the disease of interest. Okay, so for your denominator, it is the lower part of a fraction. It is used to calculate a rate or ratio. Okay, sila po yung nasa ilalim ng inyong fraction. And they are the population from which the numerator was derived. So yun yung kanilang main difference. So what are the examples of your denominator? Example, total number of people in the population at risk. So, kung medyo po nalilito, ano yung difference nila? Sa numerator, sila yung mga tao na nakadevelop ng disease of interest. They have the specific illness, condition. They possess the characteristic. Whereas for your denominator, sila lang po yung general population from which your numerator was derived. Okay? To further explain the difference of your numerator and denominator, any denominator should be be reflective of the population who could have been included in the numerator had they developed the condition of interest. This is the population at risk and is often taken as the number of people who are disease-free at the start of the data collection. If individuals who could not develop the condition of interest were included in the denominator, this would result in an underestimation of your calculated rates. So again, yung mga denominators po natin, they are also called as population at risk. However, they did not develop the disease of interest at the beginning of the collection of the data. Okay, so for the counts, the most basic measure of your disease frequency, when we count in the numerator, it reflects the number of affected individuals in a population. Meanwhile, the denominator, the count or the counting of your denominator, it reflects the population at risk. The numerator counts are useful for the allocation of health resources. So when we're trying to count the number of people who are affected by the disease, yung mga nasa numerator po natin, they are very useful in allocation of different health resources. So we wanted to know and we will know kung sino yung mga persons affected and we can give them the assistance that they needed. For example, they develop the cancer. So kung sila po yung mga taong nakadevelop ng cancer, dito sila sa numerator, number of people who develop the cancer. Ayan, mabibigyan po natin sila ng further assistance. Meanwhile, yung mga nasa denominator naman natin, sino ba yung mga population at risk to develop the cancer? Sino ba yung may mga cancer genes? Ayan po. Ayan sila. So over the counts of your numerators, limited usefulness of epidemiologic purpose without knowing the size of the population at risk. So what are your ratios and proportions? Like what we've mentioned, ratios are where your A and B, where A and B are mutually exclusive of one another. So, however, there is no implied relationship between the numerator and the denominator. So, kung matatandaan po yung ating definition of ratios and proportions, the numerator is not part of the denominator. Again, numerator is not part of the denominator. Wala po silang relationship with one another. So, mutually exclusive po sila. So what are the examples of your ratios? Ratios are typically used to compare the magnitude of two or more measures. So kung meron man tayong population or total number of 60 students, 35 dun yung female, 25 yung male, they are ratio. Okay, what is the ratio of female to male, male to female? So, pag tinanong kayo, what is the ratio of female to male? Ang sagot dun is 35 divided by 25. So, uunahin mo yung count nung female kasi yun yung unang tinanong. Okay, 35 over 25. Likewise, pag tinanong naman what is the ratio of the male to female in the classroom A, so ang sagot mo naman doon ay 25 over 35. So, sinimplify lang po yung 35 over 25, kaya po siya naging 1.40 is to 1, and then kinonvert po into percentage. However, pag sa ratios, hindi naman po natin siya kailangan i-express in percentage. Mas maganda na po yung nakaganyan, yung 1 is to 40, 40 is to 1. Okay po, tandaan po yun ha, kapag ratio, ganito lang po yung isasagot natin. Ma'am, saan po applicable yung final answer na percentage? Always po yun, almost always sa mga proportions. Proportions is different from your ratios because everyone in the numerator is always part in the denominator. Your numerator was derived from your denominator. Yun naman po yung proportion. It tells what fraction of the population is affected. It always ranges from 0 to 1 and commonly expressed as percentage. Okay? Again, it has no element of time within the calculation. Kasi kapag meron na tayong time frame na pinag-uusapan, iba na po yung tawag doon. Again, ratio, proportion, numerator, denominator, pakitandaan po yung ibig sabihin. So your proportions, bigay naman natin example, yung first example natin which is yung 60 students. So 35 na female, 25 na male. So 30 students aged 25 years and over, 30 are younger than 25 years. So what is the proportion of females? So if you're going to express it in percentage, should 35 over 60 or 58%? So parang 35 over 60. So let's try to use a calculator. So parang 35 divided by 60 is equals to 50.58333. So pag in-express po natin siya, nilipat lang natin yung dalawang decimal points. Ang sagot po natin dyan ay 58%. Okay, next. 30 divided by 60. So what is the proportion? 30 divided 60. 30 divided 60 is equals to 0.5. So if you're going to express it in percentage, it will become 50%. Okay, so ganun po yung kanyang expression and the final answer. It is always expressed in percentage. Again, your ratio, for example, if there were 100 women in this class and 20 are men, the ratio of women to men would be 100 over 20. Okay, pag tinanong ka, pag meron tayong total of 120 students sa isang class, 100 doon yung women, 20 yung men. Ano yung ratio ng women to men? So the answer would be 100 over 20. To simplify, there are 5 women for each man. 5 is to 1. So, the final answer po is 5 is to 1. Kasi mas simplify pa natin to. Okay? Pag tinanong naman tayo, what is the proportion? If there are 120 women naman, for example, in a class of 130 students, then the proportion of women is 120 divided by 130. Ma'am, bakit ganon? Kasi po yung 120, this is the total number of women. Parte sila ng 130. Diba? So, you have to divide 120 over 130. Ang magiging sagot niyan is parang 0.92. So, ang kanyang expression will be in percentage. Thus, the answer is 92%. So, 92% ng number of students dun sa klase na yon ay puro babae. So, ganyan po natin siya i-express. So, like what we've mentioned, if we're talking about proportion, it means that the numerator is part of the denominator. However, we're not talking about a specific time frame. Wala tayong pinag-uusapan na oras dito. Kasi kapag meron na tayong time frame na pinag-uusapan, it will be referred to as rate. Rate refers to the occurrence of events over a given interval of time relative to the total person of time or exposure at risk. So what are the different types of your rates? We have the crude rates. Madami po tayong computation sa ating biostatistics and epidemiology that includes rates. Crude rates. It is the denominator. Ang magiging denominator natin doon usually yung total population. So doon tayo nagkakaroon ng mga confusion in our epidemiology kung ano ba yung gagamitin nating denominator. If it's the total population, yung total number of people who are affected lang, ganyan. So be familiar on solving these following problems. Dapat alam niyo yung definition nung each item. Kasi kung si crude rate, so hindi mo naman siya kakabisaduhin lang kung ano yung kanyang numerator, denominator, yung kanyang formula. You have to understand the meaning and the meaning of the crude rates for you to be able to know kung ano yung gagamitin mong numerator and the denominator. Okay, much better po na naiintindihan natin yung kanyang principle. Next, the specific rates. The denominator is the population subgroup. And then the adjusted standardized rates are constructed to permit which differ in some important characteristics. So again, when we say rates, okay, we're talking about a specific period of time, the number of events or the population at risk per time unit.